March 21st, and today is the last day of Japan Week. So I am in Grand Central Terminal photographing the event and documenting some of it on video.
Yoko Furosho is a worldly recognized Japanese artist, illustrator based in New York City. She is the winner of the Arts Director Club YG7 and has many publications featured, example, Maybelline New York, Cats Collective, and Glamour Magazine. She will be accompanied by Rina Nagachi Simkowitz. She's a high school student currently in New York City. She's a bilingual voiceover actress and singer. And she goes to school in Japan every summer since she was 5 years old. So please welcome Miss Yoko Furosho and Miss Rina Nagachi Simkowitz.
Long ago, there was a beautiful young female mouse living in a house. Her parents wanted her to marry well, and were always thinking, we must look for the most wonderful bridegroom in the world for our daughter. One day, the father said to the mother, "Mother, it is the sun that is the most wonderful, because he shines over us and gives us light." They went to the sun and asked him, "Mr. Sun, you are the most wonderful in the world, aren't you? Would you marry our daughter?" The sun answered, smiling, "Well, Mr. Mouse, I am not the most wonderful in the world. The cloud is the most wonderful because I am hidden by him." "Oh, I see," said the father. So they went to the cloud and asked him, "Mr. Cloud, you are the most wonderful in the world, aren't you? Would you marry our daughter?" The cloud answered, embarrassed, "Well, Mr. Mouse, I am not the most wonderful in the world. The wind is the most wonderful, because I am blown off by him." "Oh, I see," said the father. And they went to the wind and asked him, "Mr. Wind, you are the most wonderful in the world, aren't you? Would you marry our daughter?" The wind answered, pouting the lips, "Well, Mr. Mouse, I am not the most wonderful in the world. It is the wall that is the most wonderful, because I am stopped by him." "Oh, I see," said the father. Then they went to the wall and asked him, "Mr. Wall, you are the most wonderful in the world, aren't you? Would you mind marrying our daughter?" The wall answered, surprised, "Well, Mr. Mouse, I am not the most wonderful in the world. It is the mouse that is the most wonderful, because I am eaten by him." "Oh, I see," said the father. So the parents decided to have their daughter marry a handsome young mouse who lived nearby. "Oh, you are the most wonderful bridegroom in the world. Would you marry our daughter?" "With pleasure," said the mouse. Both the father and his wife were very happy, and soon they had many grandchildren.
We have many beautiful special performances, and very rare, pertaining to Japanese beauty. The next performance is on traditional Japanese makeup, particularly to the maiko or geisha, as you would know it. It's very particular and very unique, so it's a very exciting performance that we have today. So if you could just please put your hands together and welcome the traditional makeup master who came all the way from Japan and her accomplices.
Those of you who know me well will know that I very much dislike makeup, and I especially dislike this traditional type of makeup. I think it looks very creepy. I used to have nightmares about something similar to this. To me, this looks very similar to the kind of makeup used in Chinese opera, although I'm sure to an expert in this, they are totally different, but they look the same to me. I really wouldn't be able to tell the difference if I just saw it. And it doesn't frighten me now, but I just think it looks really gross. So after this whole process of applying makeup, which took about 20 minutes, I think, the woman who is receiving this makeup is actually a dancer, and she does the dance afterward. So you see here, this dance is mostly just walking in this slow, deliberate way. And the most interesting feature I see here is the red strings. I'm not sure exactly why they have red strings. My best guess would be that this somehow relates to the traditional Japanese idea that there are invisible red strings connecting us. These are lines that represent our fate. So people who are fated to be together are connected in some way by invisible red strings. Now, I'm not sure how that relates to the way that the story ends, because in this dance, the red lines break at the end and the dancer collapses. I'm not sure if that represents that we are all fated to die, or if the idea is that the strings of fate can be broken and we have free will. I really don't know. The next event after the dance was the hair demonstration. The part that I found most interesting were two things. One is what the assistant did. She spent most of her time just holding the hair in place for it to be fashioned by the hairstylist, and the rest of her time was really spent either just standing around watching or fetching tools. The other interesting thing was that there was another woman who already had her hair styled in advance, and she just sat there the entire time trying to be as motionless as possible until the whole process was over, and then she got up and walked around on stage to show off her hair.
We are honored to have with us today a Japanese designer, Mr. Nobuaki Tomita. He is here to share with us, yes, a round of applause, please, thank you. He's here to share with us both the traditional art of the kimono, and we will be drawing from the audience any models who would like to participate, so please come up to the front if you think you might like to do that. And also his modern spin on the kimono design. So with that, I turn it over to Mr. Tomita.
So I speeded up this part of the video because it lasts for about 5 minutes. It's the entire process of putting on this specific kimono. One of the things I was wondering while watching this is, how does somebody take that off by themselves? Some of the knots are tied from behind. I'm sure that some people will have great difficulty in doing that, because people have different degrees of dexterity and people have different degrees of ability to manipulate things with their hands without looking. So I'm sure some people would not have much trouble with taking it off, especially if it's like a daily routine, but others may have tremendous difficulty, like maybe an elderly, wealthy Japanese woman who has Parkinson's disease might have tremendous difficulty. I'm sure that they have people working for them, possibly people who have no other task at all except for handling the process of putting on and taking off a kimono. But that leads to the other question: what happens when they have to use the bathroom? Not only does this require an assistant to take off in some cases, but it also takes time. So this is especially complicated if you're alone and you need to use a bathroom, and it's hard to untie all the knots from behind, especially when it's a really urgent situation. I'm not sure how Japanese women handled that in the past. I know that there was a Chinese tradition for dealing with that situation, but only on their wedding day. So the wedding dress was very intricate and difficult to take off, and it was considered also bad luck if a woman actually needed to use the latrine on her wedding day. And so anti-diuretics were actually used. It was actually made from ginkgo. The flesh of the ginkgo nut was used to make a soup which was anti-diuretic and helped a woman to be able to not need to urinate all day. But that was not something that could be done every day. That was done on the wedding day. If you do that every day, use any kind of anti-diuretic, it actually raises blood pressure. So I have no idea what people did about that. So I left after the kimono demonstration because the next two events were repeated events. They had another makeup demonstration and another hair demonstration. And after that, it was unclear if there was going to be a closing ceremony or not. The schedule that they had posted at the event did not show a closing at all. On their website, they had listed a closing from 8 o'clock to 8:40, but there was no description. All other activities had a description, but the closing ceremony, or whatever closing meant, did not have any description. So I'm not sure if there was actually a closing ceremony like at the Olympics kind of thing, or if that just meant they were doing cleanup and taking the tables out and all of that. And I did not want to stand around for another 2.5 hours waiting to see if they might have an event, since I was already standing around for about 5 hours photographing the events earlier in the day. But overall, I thought it was an interesting event. I enjoyed it very much, and I intend to go back again next year if they have it.